Okay. Hey guys, I'm here with Johnathan Pai. He did an amazing walkaway video, and I reached out to him, and I'm really grateful that he chose to get back to me, and we're having a conversation now. Hey Jonathan, what's up?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, good. So I always ask my guests this when I'm doing this series. Were you always on the Democratic plantation, or if not, what made you? Uh, oh wait, were you always on the Democratic plantation? And if you were, what made you leave?
Well, I was never really part of the Democratic plantation. I was born here in the U.S. My parents were basically Republicans when when they came to the U.S. They registered for it, and when they learned about it, I guess they kind of just did their bit of their research about what the Democratic Party was about. And what happened was, when they came into the United States, they realized that when it comes to on the Republican side, they want basically the biggest thing that caught their attention was they want smaller government. Republicans want smaller government, lower taxes, and more. They want less government regulation. And when they first heard about that, they goes, you know what? This sounds like a really, really good political party. So that's why they registered. It's one of the things why they registered as Republicans. But uh, but yeah, especially the past 10 years though. Um, when I became a Republican, actually, I kind of became a Republican because I was kind of like, just go with the flow with my family, right? But then, especially like I said, these past 10 years, when after seeing what's going on with the left, I kind of just said, it's probably one of the best decisions that I made, where, especially with now, you have people on the left that are just so extreme now. They're just not what they used to be anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're from California. I'm from California too. Or you're in
Yeah.
California right now. I'm not, but I'm from California. But anyway, did you have any pressure from your other friends? Or are you open about your political beliefs?
I don't talk politics too much. Basically, and not just that. A lot of the people that I hung out with, I know a very very good friend of mine. We're very longtime childhood friends, and he's a Democrat. He's a liberal, but and we talk about politics quite a bit just between me and him. And the cool thing is we're still friends. Because at the same time, he has some good points, and then he says that I have some good points as well. So, it's not like we're different political parties, so therefore we can't be friends. No, so I guess what the left now is doing is they believe that, oh, if you're friends with a conservative, or if you're friends with or basically anybody that's not a Democrat, even if someone that I think that's a moderate, they'll be like, oh, well, you're a traitor, oh, you're a racist, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're that, and it's just getting to the point where it's just getting really ridiculous.
Yeah, I was talking to my friends, one of my best friends, last night, and we were just talking about like how we've never seen anything like this before, like ever. Like
Yeah, it's getting out of control.
I was saying, I've had three family members that literally disown me. Like I'm sending them birthday stuff. They don't even like talk to me or acknowledging me. One
Yeah.
of my family members, well, I just say fuck it. I don't have to. Excuse my language. I don't have to. But my brother and my cousin were gonna try to get together to have an intervention because
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like
it's
they're
insane.
like I'm on drugs, like I'm on crack or something. But no, I'm posting stuff on my wall saying, not even saying that I support Trump, but saying like talking about how the media is lying about Trump
Mhm.
and his supporters. And I'm always sensitive to the supporters because I've always had friends all over the political spectrum. And I've always had like friends that were Green Party, Libertarian, Democrats, Republicans. It's never been an issue for me, but it's just becoming, like, and my friend was saying her family, she had family members even that would say racist stuff in her family, and she just knew that they're full of BS, but
Yeah.
bullshit. I'm sorry, I didn't say BS, but they were full of shit, and she just like, she was just like, oh, whatever. I don't believe you. You're full of shit. But she was never like, oh, I can't speak to you ever again. I must disengage. You know? It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, well, it's ridiculous. It's also very disturbing. For lack of a better word, I would say disturbing is it's not even ridiculous. That's an understatement. It's disturbing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because you see people that, you know, especially with the mainstream media now, is perceiving people like us. They're calling, let's say, people from the hashtag Walk Away movement as Russian bots. I mean, this just tells you just how ridiculous. I mean, the media has gone, and they're basically, treating us like, oh well, we're colluding with Russia and stuff like that, and that we're, that Donald Trump and his administration hacked the that colluded with the Russians, in which there has yet to be any evidence of that. And like people are saying, it's a witch hunt, and people are. I think it's just getting sick and tired of it.
When there's all this evidence on Hillary Clinton and they're just ignoring it, they're not. You don't have to like find stuff. You're not. You know what I mean? It's all the corrupt things that she and her husband have done. It's there. The evidence is there, but
exactly.
It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. I work for Lyft, and I got into an argument the other day with a passenger, which I really never do. I really try and hold my tongue, and for the most part, I'm able to have civil conversations with people because I live in Austin right now, and Austin is like super liberal. Like I'm on a liberal island right now, and Texas is all red around me, but everybody's very liberal, and I definitely get people in a lot of the time that even have this air about them that they're just better than everybody because of their views, and that everybody else is just beneath them and below them, So I always actually try and ask questions and have a conversation. But this girl, she just, I went off on her because she was talking about, have you heard of Beto? Do you know who Beto is?
Never heard of it, no.
You know Ted Cruz?
Who?
Ted Cruz, Senator Cruz in Texas.
Oh, Ted Cruz, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this guy Beto is supposed to be giving Ted Cruz a run for his money. So he's running for Senate, and he's the Democratic person for Senate. So I knew a little bit about Beto, so she gets in the car, and I'm asking her, I'm like, so what do you like about Beto? And she's like, oh my God, because he's for humanity, and he's for women's rights. And I'm just thinking, like, I love when I pick you up from your air-conditioned house with your short skirt and you're running water and you want to complain about, like, how women are oppressed, when I'm driving a car. Like, I lifted somebody from Saudi Arabia who was, like, a grown woman who didn't even know how to drive because she just moved from Saudi Arabia, and because women aren't allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. So I'm listening to this girl talk about women's rights and stuff, and
right.
And I just lost. And then I was like, so did you vote for Hillary Clinton? She's like, well, of course I did. I was like, I went off.
And what's funny is that I believe that Hillary Clinton said that, she at the same time she kind of stereotyped and kind of, I would say, kind of like, how do I say? She kind of basically left out or saw that women that voted for Trump, she saw them all, somewhere on the lines like, she saw them as traitors. Oh, they shouldn't have voted for Trump and all of that. And they should be supporting her because she's a woman. But, that's I think where the stereotype comes in, is where just because you're a woman doesn't mean that, you have to vote for Hillary,
Yeah, well, she called black people super predators. So I was done with her. I mean, I was done with her because of a lot of stuff. But I'm just like... I don't see how you... But see, that told me a lot about that girl, because she doesn't care about women's rights. She doesn't care about the rights of anybody else. She just wants her team to win. She cares about herself.
They're using emotions rather than logic. In other words, they're not doing the research. They're
totally.
Yeah, basically what they're doing is they're see the stuff on the mainstream media and they perceive it at, it must be true, right? So the news must be true, right? But in fact, it's totally far from that, especially, with CNN, MSNBC, all those, especially those, channels that basically perceive not just the president and his administration, but people that voted for him. Yeah. These people are, they don't know what they're doing, they're ignorant. And even Hollywood, probably disgusting too, where I think Jimmy Kimmel said that, we're conservative, we conservatives are like mentally ill or something. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I wonder who's the mentally ill one here, who doesn't do their research and who are just automatically assuming that,
and my brother, I brought that up before, ever since his life, he's been just really cold to me. And I've been the one that's been reaching out. And I'm like, maybe, he's the one that's mentally ill. They can say that about us, But it seems like we're the ones that are making more of an effort to reach out. We're the ones that aren't cutting off our family.
Yeah. I mean,
they're the ones that are doing it. So, like, they have the issue.
Yeah, we try to, avoid the name calling, but sometimes, like, when you present them with facts, they still won't listen. And then it'll get to the point where now, I guess, this walk away movement now, founded by a Democrat, by Brandon Straka, and he just said, you know what? After hearing all these lies, sometimes arguing and debating, you can't win it. So sometimes, just walk away. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
You walk away from the plantation, abandon the Democratic Party, and just says, you know what? Enough of the hate speech, enough is enough. I'm done. I think that's why a lot of even the Democrats are saying, you know what, the stuff has gone too far. I want nothing to do with it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm glad, even though you weren't even on the plantation, but I was glad to see your video. I'm just glad to see people speaking out, like I get so excited when I see another person like speak out, because that's really what's going to have to happen in order for us at least to bring balance back to this country, because everything is so out of balance. It's like that Gopher game, like one pops up and the other pops up. If we all start popping up, they can't really silence all of us.
Exactly.
But what I was going to say, because we actually started this interview 10 minutes ago and then we had some technical difficulties, but we were talking about how your grandparents left China, right?
Yes.
So can we go back to that? We're talking about that and the Japanese occupation, because I think that's really interesting. I don't think a lot of people know about that. So
yeah, so they left China, I would say roughly right around like maybe in the late 50s, early 60s, which is during the Great Leap Forward. That was basically an economic program that was initiated or founded by Mao Zedong, and basically that completely destroyed the economic system in China. And what it did was it forced a lot of people, that they couldn't afford, a whole lot of stuff. And basically what it did was, like I said, it destroyed the economy, and then a lot of people became very, very poor. Okay, and ultimately, basically the dumbed down version of it is that it basically, people were starving because they can't afford anything, because people were just so poor, And at the same time, of course, eventually, what socialism does? It drains the economy of all that money, and then eventually it's going to force the people to be doing all the paying. And then eventually it'll come to a point where people won't have any money left. And eventually, and it's on there too. It's online. It's even on Wikipedia, where in fact, the Great Leap Forward actually led what's called I believe it's called the Great Chinese Famine, and then it estimated at least minimum between 15 to 20 million people were dead, all the way till like maybe 60 or 70 million, but at least minimum 15 million.
Well, I also was. Oh, that's crazy. No, but just to add to what you're saying, I also was looking into it, and I guess that when that happened too, they were trying to steer a lot of people toward industrial jobs, and the farmers and the people that there weren't a lot of farmers, so they weren't able to cultivate enough food to feed people, and that's one of the reasons why people starved.
I even read that Mao Zedong had one of their generals. I don't know if it was one of his generals or one of his advisors, advised him not to pursue this kind of political ideology any further, because it's ruining the economy. And basically Mao Zedong, I guess he kind of labeled people like him as called, quote, counter-revolutionaries. And basically I read that he personally had this general or this advisor had him and all his followers purged.
I mean, that's how it works, though. That's how it works.
Basically, they silenced him, basically for speaking out against him.
And his wife was evil too. She was crazy. She was an actress. He was a poet. Did you know that? Yeah. I just found this out like a month ago. I was like, really? He was a poet, and I guess it's pretty good. I don't know. Like I have to read it in Chinese to find out. But he started off as a poet, and then his wife. Or I think maybe he was married twice. I don't know a lot. I'm learning about him because I'm fascinated. And, I'm like a cinephile. I like Chinese culture, so I'm trying to get more into that. But yeah, I mean that's how it starts, right? When you're hungry for power, it's like being possessed by a demon or something. You want it all, and I was watching reluctantly. I was watching the last Star Wars last night. Have you seen the last Star Wars with Darth Vader's grandson? Basically, he's the new Darth Vader. And
Oh, like you mean the new
the Star Wars series, the Last Jedi. I think that was
the Last Jedi. Yeah, I
yeah.
saw it.
So it's like obviously, you get this power and you start consuming this character.
Right.
Just comparing kind of Mao Zedong to this character, where
Yeah,
you have a lot of power. He had a lot. He was very charismatic. All these people, Hitler, all these Mussolini, people that have created like mass atrocities, are always very intelligent. They're always very charismatic, and they always have a following of people. And I
they
think
entice people.
yeah, they entice people.
They grab people's attention through these speeches. And in fact, speaking of such, one of them was, I think, one of the greatest charismatic leaders during that time was Adolf Hitler. I mean, notice how the way he speaks resonates with a lot of people, and it got especially a lot of the young people, the young generation. They got them all riled up, and they all just saluted him. They all saw.
I don't even speak German. I'm like, dang, what did he say? Like, he's like, you're like, what?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're like, oh, dang.
Speaking in a fiery speech.
You're like, I want some of that.
Everybody just cheered for him, and he just has that charisma with him at the time.
But you know what? I mean, because I'm a musician and stuff too. There's power in music. It creates vibration and emotion. I mean, it's another episode. But there is a way, and I don't know if he knew this or any of these people knew this intentionally, but there's like neurolinguistic programming and certain techniques and emotion and words and how you say it that can kind of hypnotize and captivate people, right?
Right.
But this is what the media is using.
It gives the people a false sense that, he must be a very good leader because he speaks very good. Great example, let's take a look at President Obama.
Oh, wait.
He sounds so good when he speaks, right?
Yeah.
But then when it comes to putting them into action, when was the last, I guess, how many promises did he fulfill? I mean, compared to him with President Trump, I mean, how many promises did he fulfill? It just shows you that, talk is cheap.
And there are people that still follow them because I think too a lot of people project their own, like they live vicariously through those people and they project their own thoughts and dreams onto political figures and celebrities. And I think that's why we're in the mess we are now. And I think talking about the whole like vibration and stuff, this is what the mainstream media is using to manipulate a lot of the people, I feel. With the whole, like if you want to get deep into it too, you can say that television creates alpha waves, right? And they also put a lot of attractive people in front, and they make, they glitz everything up and glam everything up. Like this guy Beto that I was telling you about in Texas, he's a very attractive guy, right? And he's very charismatic. But I looked into him after that ride, and I'm like, he's a very attractive guy. It's really interesting too. His website, half of it is in Spanish, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're for Americans, why is half of your website in Spanish? Why do you have you know what I mean? Like, if that's your priority, and it's basically the same stuff that the Democrats, open borders for immigrants. It seems like he's really reaching out to the immigrants because they're trying to get votes. They're trying to get their power through the immigrants that are coming in. It's the same stuff, but this guy's handsome and he's charismatic. So he basically rounded up all the sore losers, and that's who his followers are. Because they feel like they've been so burned.
And speaking of which, the leftists here, they're trying to, like I said, they're trying to spread that socialism and that communism stuff. And, back to my grandparents, they try to run away from that. And yet they're throwing this stuff in.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where, I'm kind of glad that they're not here to see what they're doing today, because I'm pretty sure it's going to haunt them.
Yeah, they're like, we left. This is why we left. That must be like a nightmare. It's like a horror movie. Have you seen a horror movie where you escape the killer's house and you think you're safe, and then the policeman like is the killer's brother, and he like brings you back to the house. That's what it. That's what it must be like.
The way that the left wants, socialism, but the big thing is, I think the reason why, like I said, they want it is because they want socialism, they encourage socialism, is because they feel that, everybody gets equal pay, everybody gets free health care, but little do they realize that they've never lived or experienced actual socialism. they've never actually been to a country of socialism like Venezuela.
Yeah, a lot of these
You know?
people don't even experience life. I swear, like
Yeah.
I just, because a lot of what I noticed too, even people that said they're well traveled, like they've traveled and stuff, they haven't really had to make a life in another country. They'll go and they'll do the touristy things and they'll stay at a 5-star hotel. They're still detached from the common folk.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, take a look at, what happened when they travel to North Korea,
Yeah.
Like, especially with the last person, the American who came back, who basically died from,
Oh, Oscar Otto
yeah,
Warburg, Otto
yeah, he died,
Warmbier.
and basically you can tell that they tortured the guy,
Yeah.
So when these leftists, when these Democrats are talking about, about white privilege or that they're being oppressed, and I go, you know what? That you are not oppressed here.
Yeah.
You want to experience oppression, like I said, go to Venezuela or go to North Korea or even go to Iran, those countries.
Yeah.
And basically, why don't you go to those countries and experience it for yourself?
We should trade them.
It's going to be your one-way ticket.
Oh, totally. We should just trade them with the people that want to come here, because the people that want to come here, they'll do good to this country. And that, like, they want to talk about how horrible America is. Like, I like, there should be a reality show where we get all these people in a plane or in a boat or whatever, and we drop them off for like a week. They wouldn't last a day, let alone a week. But I think a week is good enough time.
Yeah.
Just to let them, to
give them a taste of it,
and then see if, do you want to come back? You want to come back? Okay. Are you sure? Don't you hate America? Mm-hmm. Okay. Like,
yeah,
that would be amazing. I practice gratitude a lot, and I'm like, I have an apartment, I have AC, I have warm water. Like, those are luxuries, and I'm not rich, but, I'm rich compared to so many other people around the world. I don't have to, I can go places at night. I'm not worried about my safety as a woman. Really. I mean, like, it depends on maybe the area I go at time, but still I can go places by myself. I don't have to be escorted by a man. I don't have to cover my face. I can wear my short skirts. It's very, I just don't understand. These people are delusional. I went off, that lady, it was very unprofessional, and especially it was a shared ride and there were two guys in the car, but I went off, man. I couldn't. I just couldn't anymore. And especially in Austin now, I'm tired of holding my tongue, because I feel like I have to hold my tongue a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah, sometimes, put it this way, it'll get to a point where, we really can't be that silent anymore. We have to say, honestly say, how we feel. And the big problem is the left is going to do everything to try to silence us,
Yeah.
They're going to throw that hate speech. They're going to shame us, they're going to do everything they can. But at the end of the day, it's actions that speak louder than words. And they're basically, their actions tells us that they would rather throw hate speech and use violence rather than use facts and logic.
Oh, they're the modern day Nazis.
Or in any politics.
They want to call everybody else a Nazi but themselves, but they're the real Nazis. They're the ones that are beating people. I had a friend who's a reporter who had his, she was recognized because he's a Trump supporter and stuff. Somebody poisoned his drink when he went to
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, I don't know if you saw that video of that guy. I guess his last name was Jimenez.
And what happened?
Oh, like, that's the guy that basically threw the drink, that stole that kid's MAGA hat in the restaurant. It went viral.
Oh,
So
I need to go back and see that. I didn't.
Yeah, he went up to the kid. Basically, he didn't like he was wearing the Trump hat. He took it off. He basically, chugged some soda in his face and basically just took his MAGA hat. And at the same time, he thinks that, I could get away with it. But in fact, turns out that not only was he fired, but at the same time, he was even arrested. He was arrested.
Wait, he was working? He was working and he did that?
Yeah.
He was at his job?
Yeah, he was working. And then
was he like a waiter or something? What did he do?
Well, he worked at a restaurant, but also at the same time, he also worked at a bar or something. But he got fired from that too. And of course, I also heard that he was part of like the Green political party, and the Green Party want nothing to do with him anymore. So basically, it just shows you that, if leftists, want to continue to do this, then you know what? The more they do it, the more they will make themselves look worse.
Well, it's true, but at the same time, too, I think, a lot of people are very, very scared, and I'm glad that, because I started this series, too, just to have conversations with people And I don't know if I told you why I call it blacker than thou, but I'm sure you may have experienced this too. Just growing up, long story short, growing up in junior high, when I start going to school around a lot of black kids, because the first part of my life, I grew up in Koreatown, a lot of my friends are Asian and Latino. So I got there, I started going to school with more black kids and stuff, and I like things like, I don't know, classical music. Like, I like philosophy. I like art. I like different things that I'm not supposed to like because I was black. So the blacker than thou are these people that feel like they have the keys to blackness and tell you how black you should be, like how you should dress, what you should look like, how you should talk, all this stuff. They control everything. So it's kind of like blacker than thou. It's not. So as I've gotten older, I realized that there are other races that have the same issue. Mexicans, Latino people, Asian people. My friend said that you guys are called bananas instead of Oreos.
Yeah, white, yellow on the outside, white on the inside.
Yeah, bananas. I was like, what? So I was like, oh, it's not just a black thing. It's something that basically this social engineering that happens within all races that tell people how to think and how to be, that kind of is very psychologically oppressive. And in that is you're an Asian person, you're a black person, you're supposed to be a Democrat. No doubt about it, no questions asked. That's what you do. And if you do anything outside of that, you're fired.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Seriously. I mean, and the cool thing is when Kanye West came out and said that he was a free thinker, that came out of nowhere. I mean, when Hollywood said that, they lost it. Hollywood lost it when Kanye said that. And basically what happened was he just says, you know what? I'm going to free think. I'm going to speak for myself. And that's exactly what he did. When he mentioned about that Dragon Energy tweet, oh my gosh, the left was just unhinged.
Yeah,
at that moment.
Well, they're using celebrities as pawns too. They're using them as pawns because it's sad that we have such an idol celebrity worship problem in our country, that there's so many people that live vicariously through celebrities that they know that celebrities are very powerful. You know? So even though we don't act like we don't care what celebrities think, we do, because we know the power that they wield, because if they're respected, people will be like, oh, well, Kanye said this? Okay, well, maybe I will look into this. Wherever was somebody that maybe they didn't respect, then, they wouldn't,
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's a shame because, sorry.
It sounds like you're going to put a tape on. Do you have a tape?
No.
I was like, you play some music? I'm just kidding. Go on.
But, it's getting to the point now where, celebrities think that they could get away with almost anything now. Whether it's name calling or whether it's basically, and not just that, not just name calling Trump, but they're also targeting his family.
Yeah. And his supporters.
Like, with Peter Fonda, when he said that he wanted Trump's son Barron to be locked up with pedophiles or something.
That's awful. That kid.
The most vile tweet I've ever heard so far.
Oh man, that's a kid. But imagine not choosing to be in this, and you're 12. You're already trying to get through junior high. That's the hardest. On top of that,
and guess what? He still has a career. I mean, look at Roseanne. What she said. I mean,
that was nothing.
But she got fired.
I didn't think that was bad. People were butthurt.
Like Peter Fonda. Or Whoopi Goldberg, what she did to Judge Jeanine.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But what Roseanne said was not bad. That was funny. People need to have a sense of humor. The left is also killing comedy, okay? We're not allowed to laugh. Remember Eddie Murphy? In his younger years? Mel Brooks, all these people that would say stuff like that, and it wasn't a big thing, Yeah. I don't even see, and that lady's not, she didn't hurt that lady's feelings. Come on. She don't care. I didn't even know she was black. She doesn't look black to me. I was like, she's black? Who cares, But they were just waiting for something to use against her because they knew her issues, and I think they were mad that her show was successful, and it was really starting to open up conversations, I think. And they don't want these conversations to be had because they want to keep their power.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that was
the thing
that
is,
was about.
And the thing is with a lot of these celebrities now is that they're so out of touch with American society. They don't know what it's like to actually just have a regular job, paying your bills, trying to just go to work from A to B every day, in an average car, living in an average home. No, they live in multi-million-dollar mansions. They
With
live in
security. With
like
security.
gated communities.
Yeah.
And they got personal bodyguards, and yet they're talking gun control.
Yeah, I know. That's ridiculous.
It's nuts, and it's ridiculous.
I lifted a
and
guy.
And the hypocrisy, too.
Oh, totally. No, I lifted a guy who was telling me that he actually worked. He didn't say what celebrity he worked for, but he was saying he worked for a celebrity in L.A. as a bodyguard for their children going to school. And yet he's like listening to them talk about gun control. He's like, wow, like, I don't, like...
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. You're like, I don't, like, you want me to guard your family, you don't care about anybody else, like, and then, you know, they want to rag on, like, you know, middle America, the farmers that grow their food and make their products and stuff, you know, they wouldn't be able to survive the apocalypse. You know, like, how are they gonna eat their iPhones? Like, what are they gonna do? They don't know how to farm. They don't know how to do anything, you know.
Yeah, and at the same time, they know nothing about guns, you know, about gun regulations and all that sort of thing. And, you know, basically, we already have, you know, like I said, they call the assault weapons ban. And, you know, and yet they still want more gun control. And at the meantime, what's more disturbing is they also want to censor free speech. The First Amendment and the Second Amendment, those two things, they're already targeting. And the way I'm looking at it is because this is bad, is because these are the two things that they're going to take out, right? Can you imagine if that were true? What's going to come next, you know? They're going to search our homes with no search warrant? They're going to put us in jail with no trial?
Oh, but the policemen won't do that.
Or unusual punishment? You know, what's next?
I know. And it's so funny, like, the logic is crazy, like, because they want to talk about how horrible all policemen are, yet they want us to give up our guns.
Yeah,
like,
especially
they don't,
like the Black Lives Matter, you know, they say, you know, F the police. But at the same time, you know, they want basically, you know, all blacks, you know, they need more, they can't, black people are being oppressed by, you know, white people, by the police, and the police are racist and everything. Yeah, but at the same time, who are the ones that respond to help when you call 911? The first people that show up are police, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to basically, you know, criticize them of misconduct and everything, yeah, I mean, sure, I'm sure there's, you know, crooked cops out there, but how many crooked cops are?
Well, people are people.
There's so many good cops out there that are doing so many good things, but of course, the media won't show that.
Oh no, and you know, I had a friend that somebody broke in her house and raped her. You know, I lived through the LA riots. You know, when you call the police, my mom and my brother and I were in a house apartment by ourselves. My dad had a shop at the time, and having a gun was, he didn't have to shoot anybody, but he shot it up once, and people knew that he had a gun. They didn't mess with him. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you know, the first thing they see when they see someone armed, when they see someone, you know, try to shoot at them, they run immediately.
Yeah, and
I've seen videos.
Most of the time they do.
You know,
unless
people home invading people's homes, and yet when there's an armed homeowner, the first thing they do, they hear those shots, they just bolt for the door. You know, they just run. You know, but now if the person was unarmed, who knows what's going to happen, right? They could assault that person. They could end up making off with their property, or worse, if they have children or kids. I don't even want to imagine that if that's the case, you know?
There's a town in Georgia I think it's called Kennesaw. I'll look for it and I'll put it in the links. I don't remember, but I know that they imposed that everybody in the town have a gun, you know, own a gun, and the crime rate went dramatically down. Because people aren't gonna, like, they know you have a gun. Like, most people, they don't want to get shot. They're not going to kill. Most criminals, either they want to rape you, they don't want to kill you, but they might want to rape you, they might want to steal your stuff. That's about it. You know what I mean? They're not going to, like, they either want sex or money, and that's it. They're not trying to, unless they're like a serial killer.
Like I said, you know, they're looking for easy targets. For example, a perfect place would be gun-free zones.
Yeah.
You know, you're not allowed to bring guns, but of course, like, what, the criminal? You think he's going to care?
Yeah,
like,
they don't fill out applications.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care. I know, just people. The logic is so crazy. Like, what else? I had another. My dad and I, we were held up in a Blockbuster for a few minutes years ago on the 4th of July. And I was standing by the door, and this what do you call it, disgruntled employee came in the door, and I guess he got fired. He was yelling and stuff, and he like pulled out his gun, and I was by the door, and I thought my dad was with me, and I like ran out, and my dad was inside, so I ran across the street. Okay, this is how old I am. I'm not going to tell you, but there was a payphone. They have a cell phone, but there was a payphone across the street, and I went and dialed 911, and 911 was busy. How is 911 busy? What do you do if 911 is busy? Well, it was the 4th of July. It was crazy, and in South Central, it was crazy. You know, so like, what are you going to do? How are you going to defend yourself? You're just going to wait? You're just going to keep calling until the police answer, until like they answer?
Yeah, exactly. Because when your life is in the balance, like, like you said, like you mentioned, when 911 is busy, yeah, well, not only you have to call them, but at the same time, the police have to drive to arrive at the scene. Even if it takes like a short time, let's say maybe 3 to 5 minutes. But when your life is in danger,
36
mere seconds hang in the balance.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to wait for the police to arrive, and at the same time, I'm going to hide. Yeah, well, what if, like you said, some crazy psycho has an auto rifle, and then he's, full on, opening fire, and yet you got nobody armed on the scene to take him out.
Yeah.
I mean, who's
how many people are going to die before then,
Yeah.
Like, and Texas has, I guess there are a lot of people that carry guns here, but we also have some of the lowest crime rates too because of it in the country.
Yeah, and also you could compare, let's say, the state of California, which has one of the strictest gun control laws in the nation, and let's take a good example like its next door neighbor, Arizona. Arizona has one of the most laxest gun laws in the nation. They're very pro Second Amendment, but yet if you compare them, they have one of the least crime rates compared to California.
Yeah, and Chicago. I think Chicago. Yeah. And Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, Illinois, and especially like you said, Chicago. The most violent city in the U.S. And yet, what does the mayor do? Nothing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's a guy I'm friends with, and I've interviewed him. His name is Maurice Delk, and he's from Chicago, and he's older, and he was in a gang though when he was younger. He was able to get guns. He was in Chicago. He was it didn't stop anything. So these people that think that making rules is going to stop people that have intent, they're living in la la land. They're insanely crazy. Like their development has been arrested.
Right, and not just that. Furthermore, a gun's just a tool. It could be used for good or it could be used for bad.
Yeah.
Same thing with anything can be used as a weapon, okay? An axe, a knife, a hammer, even a car.
Yeah.
We've seen, how many people die from cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Especially with the attacks lately, especially I believe it was in Canada and even in Europe, people are, the terrorists are using, the number one weapon they use were cars. They use cars as weapons to run people over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the most ridiculous thing, though, I'm sure you heard about it, where Sadiq Khan in the UK decided to pass knife control.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I
thought it was a joke.
Huh? You already have gun control, now you want knife control. I wonder how that's going to work.
How are we going to butter our bread?
So
I don't know.
Next? Oh, you want car control now? Yeah, let's have car control, Let's have people register their cars so that they don't kill or hurt anybody with it. It's just ridiculous.
I know.
But mark my words, it won't surprise me that they're going to come up with some sort of regulations now for cars. I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. It's not going to surprise me.
I don't know, man. Something's in the water with England. Poor England, man. I look at what's going on with their country, and it's devastating. It's devastating. I mean, that shit ain't happening here, though. I mark my words. One thing, Americans might be perceived as being arrogant, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad for that arrogance and that cockiness, because I think that at the end of the day, that's really what's going to save us.
Yeah, because when you have, furthermore, you have a president that, of course, he's not perfect, but at least he's fulfilled more promises than any other president. He could be kind of unhinged at times in some of his rhetoric, but at the same time, he also backs it up. When he said he was going to back out of that disastrous Iran deal, I mean, he did it.
Yeah.
And furthermore, moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, he did that too. He did that as well. And then at the same time, he also fulfilled promises of giving more jobs. He did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. And it's like the people that are so anti him and his supporters, they don't even want to admit that. They'd rather, like they were talking about, like Kim Jong, right, from Korea.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, like he's gonna get us all blown up. It's gonna be disastrous. And then that works out.
Yeah, and look how the
that
meeting
works
turned
out. They works out, and then they turn it around. They're like, oh no, he's talking to dictators. Like
Yeah.
what?
Like, yeah, they shook hands, and they agreed to denuclearization. Yeah, we're going to nuclear war, all right?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying the fact that now that it works out, now they want to say that he's conspiring with, like, I've never seen anything so childish, so petty in my life, and these people are supposed to be the ones that are progressive,
I think they're just super bitter that they're not getting things their way, and that they lost the election. They're still butthurt over it, and they just need to grow up. Trump's your new president. Whether you like him or not, you don't have to agree with every single little thing, but at least don't destroy the very country you live in just because somebody doesn't, politically agree with you.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It's just gotten to the point where it's just beyond absurd.
What are your parents? Your parents are alive? Are your parents alive?
Oh yeah, they're alive.
Yeah. What do they think about it?
They try not to get involved too much of it because every time they see these leftists, they say, you know what? I think they have a really good response. What they do is, you know what? Ignore them. They're insignificant.
No, but I'm sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So basically they think that if the media is going to say this or if these leftists are going to say that, they say, you know what? We don't look. They say I ask them how they feel, and they say, yeah, you know what? We don't listen to it. We just watch our regular usual program and just not even give a care about what they think or say. And they, at the same time, the only time that they care is when it comes to time to vote. They already know who to vote for, and they already know what they're going to vote for as well. Whether it's, in this case, a new president, a new governor, whether it's a new Senate, they already know who they're going to go for, because they do their research before the elections. So I think that's going to mean a lot.
I have a question. What do you think of, if you don't mind talking about this, but what are your thoughts on illegal immigration? And I'm saying illegal because there's a difference. People don't make that distinction, right? That's another way that they're polarizing people, where they're just saying it's all immigrants, and they're not making the distinction between legal and illegal immigrants.
Oh, I think it's a spit to the face. And it's, to all the immigrants who actually came here legally, who actually, went through the blood, sweat, and tears just to go through the legal process, just to become U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what my parents and grandparents did. I mean, if they can do it, why can't, the immigrants from Mexico and the rest of Central America? I mean, why can't they do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I can understand, they say, oh, well, we're trying to escape the cartels, we're trying to escape the gangs, we're trying to escape the violence over there. Okay, then that's great and all. But at the same time, you still go through the legal process. Don't just say, oh, okay, I'm here. Give me free welfare. Give me free health insurance. Give me free this. Give me free that. And, I don't have money. That's not an excuse. I mean, my parents, they hardly had anything when they came here.
They were escaping the communists, right?
Yeah, and their English was also very limited.
Yeah.
So it took them a very, very long time to gradually assimilate themselves and, to become actually successful. And eventually now they're successful now.
Yeah.
It takes time, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I get that too, and especially I had a conversation with a guy from England who's black. We were talking about the whole black victim mentality, and he was really on the victimhood side, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? People that are black that come from Africa or Jamaican, they speak English, but they come from Africa, right. And English isn't even their first language, and they fucking run circles around the black people here, and there's a whole I've never had an issue, and I think now that I think about it, it's because I'm a hard worker, and I don't I don't complain, and I'm not in that victimhood mentality. But a lot of Africans that come to America don't like black people that are born here because they think that they're lazy and they're idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, stereotypically speaking, I know that's not true, but a lot of the ones that they do when they're running circles around him, and they're like seeing people like cry about like microaggressions, and they're coming from a country where they're running from dictatorships and gangs and all this stuff, and they come here and they don't even speak English. They'll learn English within a year. You know what I mean? I'm sure your parents did the same thing. Like, all right, we're in America. We're going to learn English. We're going to do this. We're going to do the ABC. Bam. And,
Yeah, and you think in Mexico the cartels were bad, and I said earlier we got cut off, but that time. But my grandparents, they didn't just have to go through communism. They have to go through Japanese occupation.
Yeah.
They have to go through that during the 30s and 40s, and they were eyewitnesses to the atrocities as well. And to make things worse, of course, that's when they had to deal with communists after Japanese. So,
well, wait, let's go back.
It got to the point where it says, you know what, enough is enough. We're being tired of victims. So we're going to leave this country and we're going to flee from Taiwan. But then Taiwan wasn't going to, the opportunities were limited.
Yeah.
So they say, like I said, they wanted to dream big, and they went to the United States and they became U.S. citizens. And now we're hearing people on the left, they want to abolish ICE. I mean, nothing can be any worse than that. In other words, you're letting gangs like MS-13, or you're letting all these cartels and smugglers bringing in not just, drugs, but with no borders. That means guns are going to get smuggled over too, right?
Yeah.
Or other contraband.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Human trafficking.
Well, that already happens, but this is going to be even worse. Yeah.
All of that will be rampant.
I want to go back and talk about the Japanese occupation, because we really got deep into that, and I kind of want to let people, because I don't think a lot of people don't really understand and know what that was, but basically a lot of people, the Japanese, basically they were the Nazis, right? They sided with Hitler.
They sided with Nazis, yeah.
They sided with the Nazis, and I mentioned before, if you guys ever want to catch a show, there's a show on Netflix called Rookie Agent Rouge, and it's about these two girls that get torn apart by the Japanese occupation in China. And by the end of the TV series, the Japanese people are so evil, and you're like, oh, they're the Japanese Nazis. Like, the star of the show actually turns to communism, and the communists actually become the good guys. But it made me really think about the psychology of a lot of Chinese people in that era, how they were so readily available and open to communism because they were trying to get away from the Japanese and the Nazis. You know what I mean? They just ran right into the arms of another evil without even thinking about it. And then we were talking about, in theory, communism does sound great, but it's still subject to the same evils. Yeah, it's subject to the same evils that the Nazis was, because it all comes back to greed and power and control and stuff that human nature, that when they write a lot of these ideologies and political stances, they don't take into account human nature.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the former Soviet Union. They killed many of their own people too. They didn't just face opposition from Germany, Nazi Germany, but even Joseph Stalin. He himself was a dictator, and he killed many of his own people, especially people that that were scared of getting killed. Let's say they tried to beat back the Germans. When they try to retreat, the Russian, they had what are called commissars. Now, these commissars, basically, if they see any Russian soldier that try to retreat, they kill him, they murder him, because they say, oh, you're a traitor, you abandon your duty, therefore we're going to have to take you out. And they killed many of their own people too. And even after the war, basically any political prisoners were either imprisoned or they were executed. And of course, as you can see now, Russia is no longer Soviet Union, and yet the left is still trying to paint Russia as the number one evil enemy, which I find really funny because
they don't know history.
Do they really want another Cold War?
Well, plus, but it's even funnier where, they kind of have that old image of Russia and how it used to be, but yet they're the ones that are promoting socialism and communism. So wouldn't you like Russia? Like, they're so retarded. Yeah. It's like, come on, just open up a book, for real. Do you read? Do you know? I don't, the stupidity is just,
comical, Yeah, put it this way. Russia may not be the best of friends, but at least, they at least they partly respect the United States as a world power.
Yeah.
But, and also another thing is that, we do have at least one common enemy. and that's Islamic extremism, particularly with Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Yeah.
You know, when Obama was president, you know, basically he lets ISIS run amok, hardly, you know, doing anything. He claimed that he bombed positions there, but in fact, it was the Russians that were bombing ISIS, not us at the time under his presidency.
Yeah.
So Russia is basically saying, you know what, we're gonna wipe your butt for you. We're gonna clean up your mess, what you did here. You know, and at the same time, they also did, of course, you know, typically Russia, you know, they have their own agenda, but at least they tried also kind of try to clean up what Obama did too. You know, especially now, even though they're helping Iran, which the U.S. is against. But then again, you look at, you know, with Russia, and basically, like, when did Russia started cutting off people's heads? When did Russia start, you know, kidnapping, you know, imprisoning, you know, Americans for no reason, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just think there are a lot of people too. I think the media is also playing on a lot of people's ignorance, you know, and that's a shame. You know, I feel like a lot of these adults too that I've gotten in arguments with, I feel like I'm like arguing with an 8-year-old. You know, they're that like dumbed down and ignorant and so petulant. I wanted to go back too because we were talking about before we had to start over. We were talking about Mao Zedong, and I was talking about how he was a poet. Mao Zedong, and we were talking about how he's a poet and how like and what you said. I know I mentioned he was a poet, and then you mentioned one of his advisors. We were talking about what led to the famine, right? And why a lot of people died.
Well, the Great Leap Forward.
Yes, the Great
Leap
Forward.
It's on Wikipedia. It's there. I can give you the shorter version of it. Basically, what it's about was after the Great Leap Forward, it caused the Great Chinese Famine, and like I said, it caused at least 15 to 20 million, you know, Chinese dead. And then some people are saying no, it can even more than that. More people even died, even after during that famine, that one event.
Well, yeah, and too, like I was saying, I was reading something too, where I guess when Mao Zedong and his posse started to take over,
right.
they were pushing a lot of people to work in industry, and then they didn't have enough farmers to cultivate a lot of the food, and then a lot of the crops didn't come to, I don't know what's the word, like, it's not fruition. I'm missing the technical word when you can harvest, and basically enough food didn't grow.
Right, and basically at the same time, the cost for everything went up too.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
That forced people, of course, they couldn't afford anything. And, you know, when people were trying to rise and revolt, I believe, you're going to have to fact check on this one. I believe there was also, it was also on Wikipedia as well. You know, it's one of the easiest sources to get. They also mentioned that there was, I believe, a revolt from landlords, Chinese landlords. And these landlords, basically, they didn't agree with what Mao Zedong was doing. But then, of course, Mao Zedong, being the, of course, communist dictator that he is, basically, he had these landlords killed. You know, he purged them. He executed them. You know, because he saw them as, like I said before, you know, counter-revolutionaries. They opposed them, so he basically got rid of them.
What do you think? I'm just curious of your opinion. I don't think you know, or you might know, I don't know. But what is your opinion? Because we were talking earlier, too, about like how, you know, I was saying, I'm going back again, saying Mao Zedong is a poet, and his wife was an actress, and we were talking about Hitler and how Hitler was really charismatic, right? When he was just like, hey, he's like, and you're like, damn, like,
yeah.
You're like, I want some of that. Like, what is that? Like, I don't even speak German, but it's this like this energy that these people have that draws them in, and it's really weird. It's like this fine line between being brilliant and benevolent and being brilliant and malevolent, right? And why do they choose to be malevolent? Do they have these intentions? Do you think they have these intentions going in? They think they're doing good, and their head gets filled with stuff because they see so many people, like, you know, following them and believing in them, and they realize the power that they have, and it internally corrupts them. It's like being possessed by a demon almost, I would say, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think it's because it has to do, like I said, you know, the charisma coming from them, and basically it resonates with a lot of people. The people see that as a very, you know, outspoken figure. And of course, a lot of young people at that time, they say, oh, well, he must be a great leader, you know, so let's follow him. You know, they use that skill to basically rally a lot of these followers. And basically, actually, even several Chinese philosophers, even that time, however, saw through the hypocrisy. And basically, they see basically these red guards at the time, brainwashed idiots.
Yeah.
Because that's what they are. They fall for his rhetoric, but then they don't realize the big picture about what socialism
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of these students too in the colleges. And
Yeah, like for example, like Antifa. Like
yeah.
they go out and protesting, calling everyone a Nazi, beating people up that are not dressed up, but yet, that's all they do. I mean,
Well,
they're. I mean, what
they're
kind of
Nazis.
education do they have anyway?
They're like, but you know what too? It's really interesting as well, because I think that like they know that these kids are frustrated, and they have a lot of anger and they have a lot of frustration, rightfully so, but they're aiming it at the wrong people, right? And I think even in Hitler's case, like, the Germans were obliterated and impoverished during World War I. So
Right.
they're trying to get, like, they're not, I'm not saying the Germans are bad, but I think because they were in that mindset, they
Right.
were easily rallied to become, the Nazis, and I think that, like,
Right.
where I was talking about the TV show, or what really happened though, but I came to, realize watching the TV show is because the Chinese were so, like, subjugated by the Japanese, that they were
Right.
willing to run into communism without questioning it. So it seems like there's also a lot of these people that are following and just jumping on the bandwagons of really, like, deadly and very what's the word, like, destructive ideologies.
Yeah.
It's because they're ignorant. It is ignorance. Maybe it is a bit of stubbornness and fear, and the people in power seem like they're controlling it. I don't know. I'm just kind of, as we're talking, I'm kind of having some of these ideas.
Yeah, no, it just comes down to, like you said, they're just they're kind of naive. They just don't know what socialism or communism actually does. And basically, another thing is, whether it's fascism or communism, even though they're both opposites ends of the spectrum, they do have at least one thing in common, and that's collectivism, control, and oppression. They both are bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
You don't?
Thank goodness I don't.
I was just wondering. Yeah, there's a part of me. I'm getting up there. I gotta have kids soon, but I love children, and there's a part of me also too that feels a bit guilty. I didn't teach history or any of the other stuff, but a lot of my kids that I taught are now probably going to college, and they're being brainwashed by these institutions. And
Yeah.
I was one of the people that was I didn't teach them what they're learning in the institutions, but I was preparing them to go to these institutions where they can get brainwashed.
Yeah.
It kind of
especially
kills
very
me.
common now. A lot of the universities now in California, and not just that, the March for Our Lives movement, the kids that try to pass about gun control. Obviously they were not educated about, whether it's gun safety, gun regulations, school safety.
Yeah.
They only talk about, we want to ban, assault weapons. We want to ban the AR-15. We want to do this. We want to do that. Basically, these kids, they weren't educated on, on gun safety. They were not educated on gun regulations, on these kind of things. And yet, all they want to do is, if an event happens, let's say after the Florida shooting, they just raw emotion comes out from these kids. They draw emotion, and then they believe that, that the NRA is a terrorist organization. They're saying that the NRA is like, they murder kids and stuff. Kids, they're childish.
Yeah.
I mean, who would want to listen to a bunch of kids who know little to nothing at all about society?
Yeah.
I mean, as an adult, I'm not going to listen to them.
We're just like, that's cute. Yeah.
Who doesn't know nothing about gun regulations, gun control.
Who's never had
all those
yeah.
sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like we look at it, we're like, that's cute. They're protesting. Oh, look at them holding their side.
Yeah, exactly. They're kids.
Oh, that's so cute.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think? Just change the subject a little bit, because you were talking about the school systems in California. And what do you think about? Well, I'll put it this way: when I first half of my teaching career, I taught South Central, and I was in a situation where the kids, mostly black and Latino kids, they had no resources. It was violent
Right.
neighborhoods. It was hard for them to, become educated, become knowledgeable because of that situation. And then I go the second half of my teaching career when I came back from Taiwan. I taught at a Chinese prep school, and
Right.
the kids, man, they worked their butts off. And I found out that, in particular, my school too had a really good reputation for having like really good SAT scores, and I found out that points were taken off because they were Asian,
Yeah.
and I was livid. I was livid. What is your opinion on that? Have you been a
You know,
victim of that, or has that been since, I don't know how long this has been going on, or
put it this way: there's always going to be some sort of prejudice or racism out there. Whether it's against Asians, blacks, Latinos, or whites. When I was in middle school and even in elementary school as well, even I have to say I was bullied. Okay, because not just that, mainly because I was really tall. I'm 6'2".
oh shit,
So
you're like
yeah,
that
I'm
freak
6'2".
Asian.
So they see me as like, oh, he looks like an adult. Is he really a kid?
They
But
thought
they
you were a
always pick
narc.
on, being tall, but being Asian and everything, especially with like a lot of the Latinos and the blacks, they were picking on me. So I was kind of late. I was trying to lay low, trying to mind my own business. But yeah, you get those people or kids that try to do that. A lot of those, especially like I said, the Latinos and the blacks, in elementary and middle school, they kind of pick on me for that. But do I hold a grudge? No. I mean, they're kids. I mean, it did bother me for a while, but then after that, I just said, you know what? What good is it for me to hold a grudge like that?
Oh, for sure. And
It's not
it's
their
not
fault. They're
health.
just kids.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
You know?
I mean, I was bullied too. Like, I totally get that. But I guess what I'm saying is the UC systems are taking points off of kids that have Asian kids that have SAT scores because they're Asians, because they know the Asians doing so well, and that's their way to curtail the Asian population as they see it because they do
Yeah,
so well. That's bullshit. I was fucking, because I don't care what race you are. If you work your ass off, you get the prize, you get the cookies. I don't care. And my
exactly.
kids were working. They've been studying for the SAT since they were 13 years old. Every day they go to regular school, then they go to bushy band or after school, then they go to piano practice or swimming or violin, whatever they have, and then on Saturdays they go to Chinese school or whatever, Korean school, whatever like language, culture they're gonna learn, and then like Sundays they rest, and that's their whole life until they go to college, and they work their butts off for it. And to me, I was livid because, it's not like magic. I think people have this stereotype that because
right, it's about
people
being productive.
Yeah, about having a work ethic, having the support, the community.
Because a lot of right now, a lot of the Asian families, even though they're kind of seen as very old school, traditional, kind of old school people, but at the same time, they're trying to do something that's productive or at least that's meaningful, rather than interfere or involve themselves with somebody else. They rather focus on themselves and rather be more productive rather than just, like I said, involving themselves with, let's say, maybe relationships or involving themselves with politics, that sort of thing. But nowadays, it's getting a bit more bothersome now because it's only a matter of time before they target the Asian community.
Yeah.
I mean, they already target the black
community.
They did it with the Hispanic community, and they're demonizing the white community. It's only a matter of time before, the Asian community is next.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I was like, so I was elated to see your video because I saw maybe your video and a couple other Asian, speaking out, but I also I feel, because I grew up in Asian culture and I lived in Taiwan and I'm learning Chinese. I feel like I have this insight and this adoration that maybe some people don't have, and I also. I heard the stereotype, Asians are smart and stuff. And I don't think it's genetic. I think it's just your work ethic, your community support, the fact that you're very. I mean, I know I'm saying I'm being very general, but I've noticed too, when Asians study, they study in groups together and they support each other, and they're it's in that sense. They're very. You know, and that's why you like kill it. You guys kill it with test scores, but not because you're. I mean, I have those friends that are a couple.
Yeah, and it's
They're
funny
fuck up
because I
Asians
remember,
too. Yeah.
and that's a funny thing you brought that up because sometimes, when I was in high school, not just high school, but also even when I was in city college as well, you know, sometimes they ask me, it's like, hey, do you remember how to do this? Do you remember how to do that? You know how to solve this problem, that problem? You're Asian, you're smart, and I go, yeah, no, it's a bit stereotypical. But at the same time, I kind of get, what you're trying to say, that Asian people, not all the Asian people are smart, but what they tend to do is they try to be a little bit more productive.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I said, they try to focus more on themselves, on bettering themselves, rather than involving themselves too much with either politics or, all that sort of thing. Because right now, I don't involve myself with that much politics anymore. Or, that I was a bit more proactive, I'd say maybe the last year, but just not so much because, I have work. But still, sometimes, when the left will try to kind of intensify the narrative, it forces us to be political, because eventually what they're going to do is they're going to try to silence people.
And because
for me, it's not okay.
And I think also too, you have that insight because you know the story of your grandparents.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had a friend from Romania who lived through the whole Ceausescu shit and all that stuff. And I have friends from Panama. I have friends that are legal and illegal immigrants, and most of my legal immigrant friends are Republicans, or they're not Democrats. They're either libertarian Republicans, or they're not. You know what I mean? They're not on that side, especially when their
Right.
parents have had to, the grandparents' parents have had to bust their ass to get here, and they've also come through from tyrannical situations.
Yeah.
Like whether it's gangs or tyrannical government, and it's weird when I've talked to other people about this that are so for like open borders and stuff. It just goes over their head. They're like, "You're still racist."
Yeah, and not only that, I know a couple of coworkers, that I work at now. They're from Africa. One I think is from Cameroon, and the other one's from Niger. Now, I don't know the exact situation there, exact locations, but in Africa right now, you've got, civil war, you got tribes, fighting each other, and the worst place is South Africa, especially with, you got these, the African, government, you got the blacks try to eliminate the white farmers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also another disturbing thing, is because it's just shows you that,
it's not a white thing.
Like, countries like I said, Africa and even the Middle East now, they're so, so unstable now. They're forcing people to flee. But at the same time, the big problem with that is within those people, you not just have civilians, you also innocent civilians. You
got the crazy people.
Yeah, you got the crazy people. You got gangs, you got terrorists
who are mad at America too.
Smugglers, all sorts of different, bad people in the mixed.
And you know what's even crazy?
No.
I just want to add to that too. Another hypocritical point about the left is that they want to talk about all the bad things that America's military has done, which is true, but there's, but they've gone and bombed these other countries. But I'm like, okay, we bombed a bunch of countries. We've gone in and we've colonized a bunch of countries. So why are you going to open your doors to people whose family that we've just bombed? Because if I was them, I would want to like get revenge. Why are you going to be so open to that, without at least vetting people? Maybe the people that want to come for a better life, I'm sure, but you're just going to open your doors. Like, you wouldn't do that to your house. You don't just leave your front door open.
Yeah, exactly. After we removed Saddam Hussein, when George Bush was president, he got rid of Saddam Hussein. Okay, great, but it didn't make anything better? No, it didn't. And of course, even though, unfortunately, coming from Republicans, it kind of shook the party up. But at the same time, look what Obama did. He did the same thing with Gaddafi. He overthrew him, and yet did it make, Libya a better place? Oh, hell no, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
I mean, look at the
but Libya was, that's another,
killed.
yeah. But I mean, like, Libya was fine with Gaddafi. He was actually going to do good things.
Like, you have the ambassador Chris Stevens killed, and 3 Navy SEALs. They're trying to protect him in the embassy, and they were all murdered. They were all killed. And at the time, Hillary Clinton was in charge of all the issues, and yet she claims that she never knew nothing about it, making all these excuses. I'm not buying it.
Oh, but she's a woman.
No American is buying it because she was in charge. She received numerous tips that, these people, they wanted out. They needed an extraction, yet they were denied. And Hillary was in charge of all of that. And yet she just ignored them, you know?
Yeah,
Just shows you the kind of person she is.
Oh, totally. I mean, there's so much. I don't, I try not to get cynical, but there are just days I'm just like, is she ever going to get arrested in her lifetime? She'll probably die, I'm thinking, before that happens, but at the same time, I just want her to be, her and her husband to be exposed, because I really want people to know who they're putting their faith in.
Yeah, unfortunately, however, how crooked the FBI is, we know they're extremely biased. They're basically, especially with the last month or so, when they tried to, question these FBI officials like Rod Rosenstein, Peter Strzok, those people that have clearly, biased against our president and yet favor for Hillary, that it just shows you that, who the real enemy is. It's not Russia.
It's our dark, deep state. But a lot of people too, they have to realize that I think pretty much every country has a deep state. To me, only deep state is just the people that have sold their own country out for special interests. And they're all over the world. Like you were talking about Venezuela, like Chavez and stuff. He's part of that. If he's going to sell his own people out, like people need to realize too. That I think another reason why people aren't really able to connect the dots, because academia and the media make it seem like it's the evil white man. But it's anybody that wants power, that wants, that doesn't care about anybody but their own self-interest. So you have, like I was talking to this guy the other day, and I was talking to him about the cartels. I was like, yeah, man, but you got to realize that the cartels sold their own Mexican people out for whatever they're doing. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not, you can't just be like, oh, it's the white man, It's the people that they're people that care about everybody else, basically, and then they're people that care about themselves and their own self. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, sorry, my phone's kind of low on battery, but
okay. Well, and I'm gonna start wrapping it up anyway. So, okay, did you want to add anything? And I'm gonna ask you one more question. We can cut it.
Well, just a few more stuff, like like you said, when you were talking about the cartels, from Mexico, and you think that's the number one reason why we're getting a lot of illegal immigration is the cartels, and like you said, we talked about earlier that, of course, I don't favor for illegal immigration, but at the same time, you got these people that are trying to come in illegally. It's definitely a big problem, but I think it's just a symptom of an even bigger problem. You know what the biggest problem lies is the Mexican government.
Yeah,
they don't do anything for the Mexican people. I mean, if their country was so good, and yet they have so much pride in their country, yet why are they still trying to come into the United States? Right. For what reason? Mm-hmm. Illegally. The problem lies with the Mexican government, not the actual illegal immigrants themselves, even though, illegal immigration, like I said, is to blame. But the source of that blame, I think it's really got to go to that Mexican government, because they're not doing anything.
And Mexico, have you been to Mexico other than TJ? Have you been in?
Very long time.
Mexico's beautiful. I have to say, what?
I have to say, when I was I think maybe 4 or 5 years old, I remember some very small bits and tidbits of it. It used to be a very beautiful place. In fact, it was even safer there than the United States during the 80s, the late 80s, when I was just a kid, early 90s. Now, you can't even go down there without either getting shot, stabbed, or extorted money, or getting robbed.
One of my girlfriends said that her mom would drive to Panama. You could drive to Panama because you'd go through Mexico and go. Isn't that crazy? She goes, it was that safe. She goes,
roulette. I mean,
no, but she was talking about how safe.
Drugs.
Well, at the time it wasn't though. She was just saying she's a little bit older, but she was saying that she could drive. They could drive to Panama because it was that safe. Now you can't do that.
Back then it used to be beautiful, but now not anymore.
I want to ask you 2 more questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up real fast. Because you were saying that your parents or your grandparents wanted to dream big, or your parents wanted to dream big. So after they were in Taiwan, they wanted to.
Let me charge my phone a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, you were saying?
Oh yeah, so you were saying that they wanted to dream big, or they were dreaming big, so they were in Taiwan, but they wanted to come to America. And I think I mentioned that I lived there for 2 years, and Taiwan is very westernized. It's considered like a second world country, I would say, but it's very westernized. Hello? Oh, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
From, yeah. I'm just curious from their point of view, what did they feel like they couldn't do in Taiwan that they can do here in America?
Of course, I wasn't there with them in Taiwan at the time, but yeah, like I said, they in Taiwan, like I said, the opportunity was very limited, and they're still carried some of their like traditions and everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, once they immigrated here, became U.S. citizens, they basically just said, you know what, we're gonna, we're in another country now, we're gonna follow their laws, and we're gonna become U.S. citizens, and we're gonna be living a new life, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now that I think about it too, maybe Taiwan wasn't as progressive as it is now, too, during that time, But I also think that living there, I loved it. The people are very sweet. But I also...
It's very westernized there now.
It's very westernized there now, but I also think that one of the reasons... I mean, if I had extra money, I'd maybe have an apartment there or a house there and live here. But I wouldn't completely move to Taiwan just because I feel like a lot of Taiwanese people are very naive and they don't question things. Yeah. And I like I still like the American mentality more, because I'm sure that a lot of Taiwanese people, I know I'm being general. I have one friend that definitely, if she saw this, she would be like, I don't think like that. But, a lot of Taiwanese...
Because I went back to Taiwan I would say maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And everything was just very retro, very modernized. And the people, like I said, people there are just really nice people.
Yeah, oh, they're super sweet. Like, I felt like I was a Taiwanese person, but I wasn't. They just take you in, like, without even questioning. They're very warm, open people. But the thing is, too, that's also, I feel like, because they're like that, they don't question anything. They don't question authority. They just believe. They'll just, if they're watching CNN, they'll just be like, oh, Trump must be evil. Are you okay? Is he, you know what I mean? Is he trying to get, like, they won't question. Yeah. They don't think outside the box. And I think that's a very dangerous thing, too. So as much as I liked it there and as safe as I felt there, I don't think I would live there permanently because of that. Well, that was actually one of the reasons I wanted to come back, because as I started to wake up and really get a grip on the world and how things are really run, and exposure of the deep state and a lot of other stuff that we had been lying to about, I didn't feel really safe living in Taiwan. I had this one, second year I taught adults, and I had this one student who was a doctor actually, and we were talking about gun control, and she and I was like, well, she was like, oh, that's so violent. How come Americans have guns? That's so awful. And I'm just like, well, think about it. What if China came and tried to overrun you? You guys would have no way of fighting back. And she was just like, well, she was like, America will save us. I was like,
yeah, because actually, I remember my parents, right before they immigrated to the U.S. from Taiwan, they were trained on how to use small arms, just in case the China would invade.
Oh wow.
But at least as far as like an individual gun ownership, they haven't taken things that far yet. And I think that can be particularly a fairly big issue, because when you have, let's say, a country that is very anti-gun, that doesn't allow people to, let's say, own firearms, it kind of makes the country a bit more vulnerable. Because first of all, you have the front line of defense of soldiers, right?
Yeah.
But then when the soldiers are defeated, all you got left are civilians. When civilians don't have weapons to protect themselves, they don't have a fighting chance at all.
Yeah. And they're not a warlike people.
Right.
They're not, like, they don't even curse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't say bad words. Like, they're not, like, So, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. This is the last question I ask people too. What is your vision of America? What do you want to see for America in the future?
I hope that, it's a future where we can both, just set aside the hate, especially with what's going on right now in society, just, you don't have to be, agree with each other politically, but at the same time, don't throw all this hate speech around, and all this, division going on, okay, because I know it's just going to make things worse, and I just want people just to live side by side. Just tolerate each other and just stop this bigotry, this hate, this racism, and the violence that's going on. And at least before criticizing people and before labeling people these names, at least try and do a bit of your research first. Even if it's just a little bit, at least get an insight, on on the world today, rather than just just spouting off nonsense. Or some people say, take the red pill.
Okay, that's a good place. Yeah, that's a good place. Johnathan, do you have a YouTube channel or anything where people could? You don't have a YouTube channel? You don't know it, but I'm going to talk you into getting your own YouTube channel.
Actually, I do have a YouTube subscription. I can probably try and maybe upload it there. But yeah, I could definitely at least load it up on Facebook. That's no problem at all.
Oh no, well I'm going to put this on my channel. But I would just do you want to direct people? Do you want to promote anything? Or I was just going to give you a chance to do that if you wanted to. You don't have to, but I'm just saying.
No, not really. I'll let people. I'm not going to force it on people. And there's going to be some people out there that that don't want this in the face, but at the same time, I don't mind sharing it for sure. I'll put it on my book where people can follow me. So anyone listening out there, so you are Truth Talker, correct?
Truth or Talk. Truth or Talk.
Truth or Talk. Okay. So follow her on Facebook or on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna later. Bye guys, see you later. Hey Johnathan, don't hang up. All right.
Hey.
I got that.
Thanks.
So